Major General Javed01, Pakistan Army. He is a graduate of Command and Staff College, Quetta, Defense Services Command and Staff College, Dhaka, Bangladesh, Royal College of Defense Studies, United Kingdom, Masters from King's College, London, and National Defense University of Islamabad. Presently, the General Officer is commanding an infantry division employed in law enforcement operations at SWAT.
Honorable Secretary of Defense, Mr. Rajapaksa, Excellencies, Chief of Defense Staff, Commanders of Army, Navy, Air Force, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am thankful to the Vice Chancellor of the Defense University for providing me the opportunity to be here and share our experience and thoughts. Although I do understand that after having seen the earlier presentations, it is going to be me actually who is going to be benefiting more than who is going to be, providing some benefit. So thank you for the opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, what I am going to do is that because of the time constraints, I am going to rush through the issues and flag the subjects or the issues and some of the points, if you wish to discuss those, so we can take them up later on. And I have to tell you that most of those issues, most of those thoughts are going to be similar to the ones which we have seen earlier. So I think one of the benefits is going to be that for us, some of those issues are going to be, or some of those procedures are going to be validated. First of all, what we have to understand is that conflicts, by their very nature, are complex, and the post-conflict situations are even more complex. When you come to that point where you decide that you are past the conflict and you are into that post-conflict scenario or into that phase, so you are going to find, in the main, three main actors in the field. No, you are going to find the state, but the state is going to be represented mostly by the armed forces because that is going to be the major presence which is going to be there. And then you are going to find the society at large, which is going to be, of course, supporting one side, but in the process, this is also the one which would have suffered in many ways. And then, of course, the militants are the side which is opposed to the state and to the armed forces. And all these actors are going to have different states of mind. I mean, the society is going to be traumatized, wearied, cynical, and a little bit of tinge of vengefulness. Then the militants are going to be having a state of mind where they are going to feel themselves defeated, resigned, partly ostracized in the society, and of course fearful about their future. And of course the state. Now in this case, the civil law enforcement agencies are going to be either absent from the scene or they are going to be not in their optimal state. So and likewise, the civil administration is going to be absent or very weak. And the armed forces, as an instrument of the state, is going to be one organization which is going to be able, which is going to be organized, which is going to be present. So probably that's the instrument which is going to come extremely handy to the government or to the political leadership to employ or to provide the bridge from the moment the conflict ends on to the point where you will be able to transition to the normal state of the society. So it's basically the task, the way I see it, is for the armed forces to provide that bridge, stability, transition. So what's going to be the initial menu for the armed forces? in the conflict areas, first of all, of course, their responsibility is going to be to provide a secure environment, because they are the ones who have, drawn the curtain onto the conflict, and they are the ones who are present, so they are the ones who are going to be providing the security umbrella against not only the terrorist acts, but also against the normal crime, because that's also going to happen in those areas. So it's going to be under that umbrella that certain activities in the socio-economic and the political fields are going to take place, that when they gain the critical mass, so you go on to a point where you can transition to the civilian authorities completely. Displaced persons, a lot has been talked about it. We have learnt about it, how it has been managed in Sri Lanka. This is a very, very delicate subject, because we also handled this issue in Swat. Extremely important, because unless you are able to get the people back to their homes or to the areas where they belong to, you simply cannot initiate the other normalizing activities or the steps. So this is probably taking the first step back towards normalcy. And in that, of course, there are going to be plenty of agencies which are going to be involved, but again, the armed forces will have to share the major burden in organizing the return of the displaced persons and, of course, their settlement. Restore the services. Now, like I said, since this is going to be the major presence, and the armed forces, they do have those specialities, which, correspond to the various services on the civilian side. So they are the ones actually who can employ this expertise speedily, immediately after the conflict, to restore the services. Because believe me, unless the people in the conflict areas, they don't get their electricity back, they don't get the water back, they're not able to go to the markets, etc., they're not going to feel the difference from the days of the conflict. Quick impact projects. Now, some of these projects, they can be undertaken, but they're mostly small ticket items which you execute at the battalion, at the company, at the platoon level in the affected area, but they make lots of difference with regard to their impact on the lives of the people. And one thing I would like to mention, because when the people in the conflict area, when they do see the soldiers who had been firing maybe a few days earlier, now in the role of, the builders, the engineers, the health providers, and so on, so this actually makes lots of positive impact on the minds and the psyche of the people in that area. Now, with regard to the security, there are going to be actually various aspects to it. So I'm just going to briefly touch on those. You will have to keep a visible profile in the area, just to tell the people who might have some wrong notions in their heads that we are still present, we are still effective. But that's not the complete role of the armed services or the armed forces. That's just part of the job. Now, lots of it is going to depend on the kind of intelligence that you develop in the area, whereby you are able to apprehend the people who might still be hiding or who might have run away, but still within the country. So you'll be able to get hold of them and then bring them back and, have them available for the particular disposal. Then, of course, the police will have to be organized within that or under that security umbrella, and the police training will also have to take place. Because in the conflict, since these are the forces which are going to be decimated, so armed forces, since they are going to be present in the area, so I think in most of the cases they are going to be ideally suited to provide at least the generalized training for the police. Joint operations with the police, well, of course, that's, I think, a speedy way to move towards transition or to handing over the responsibility to the police. And that way, I think the police will also be able to gain lots of confidence and expertise in at least part of the duties which they will have to perform later on. Now, these are actually just some of the snapshots of the activities which we conducted in Swat, Pakistan. Now, displaced persons, again, reviving the services. Now, I have partly talked about these issues. Now, in this case, the armed forces or the leadership, they will have to remember that most of these services, they cannot and they will not be able to revive on their own. So what they will have to do is that the leaders or the political leadership in that area will have to actually put the armed services together with the relevant departments to restore these services in the affected areas. But believe me, it is absolutely essential that you get these services going and available to the people in that area as soon as possible. And that also goes for the health services, because for some time, the medical corps from the armed forces, they can provide that cover, but subsequently they'll have to give way to the health department. Likewise, I think a lot has been done about education, so I'm not going to speak further on that. Now, markets. The markets are actually the symbol of normalcy in the area. So if by way of security, if by also providing the services, if the armed forces, they can encourage indirectly the markets to open and for the life to go about in a very, very normal fashion. So that is, I think, one sure way of restoring the normalcy speedily. Transport, of course, that's going to be part of it. And there is going to be actually a lot more, which I have not covered over here, which the leaders or the commanders on the spot, they will have to look at, they will have to engage in. Now, this again is some of the snapshots. Infrastructure. I think the General has spoken about it. I'm glad so many pictures and so many points are quite similar. So roads and bridges, they will have to be restored. But also remember one thing, because what the armed forces can provide is very quick, but only a field solution to the infrastructure.